So this is a talk, the state of Plone Intranet. Most of you will have heard about the Plone Intranet project, and this is an overview of what we've done, where we are, and where we want to go. I have a few sections in the talk, but first I want to talk about the moonshot, let's call it like that. So 1 year ago at PloneConf, I was on stage announcing the formation of something new in the Plone world, which was a combination of companies that were going to invest together in a new internet solution based on Plone. The result of that, for example, we have 6 talks at this PloneConf on Plone Intranet. JC Brandt has 2 talks on pattern slip and mockup, which were a direct result of the work that has been going on at SysLab already for years in the precursor to the Plone Intranet stuff. Alex has a talk about the adaptive case management that we've developed in Plone Intranet. I myself have this talk and one other talk tomorrow about the technology. And then Matt Sittal Singh has a talk about the user profiles we did in Plone Intranet. So that's a lot of talks. We did an initial preview release in this spring, just to show a bit of the work and progress that we did. And I released the beta for our 1.0 Venus release 2 weeks ago. I haven't seen too many bug reports, so I think that's a good sign. And we're doing a brand and a website now, and I will get to that later in my talk. So what did we do in the past year? First of all, we started with design. Design first is our method. This also showed in our methodology. So we invested a lot of time, money, effort in first getting a design into place. And then we did a series of sprints, remote sprints. We use a lot of Hangouts to coordinate IRC messages, chat messages. Of course, we were working on GitHub. We have a Jenkins setup to test everything. Sometimes we did 1 day or 1 day a week sprints, then we did 2 days a week sprints, then we did full week sprints. We did all kinds of stuff. Of course, we also did on-site sprints. These are some images made in München and in Bristol, for example. So we used that for heavy-duty lifting. In München, we did a complete refactoring of our stack. And you can do more difficult stuff if you are on-site. That's what we found out anyway. We've had board meetings in Hangouts to guide the roadmap and the development priorities. We also came together once every 3 months to discuss funding and the more medium-term planning for our project. And then the business model is to pool investment to create a kick-ass product and then to sell that product and customization services on top of that product. It's a normal business model. What's innovative is about pooling that together and collaborating with multiple companies to create a level of scale that we haven't been able to achieve before. I want to talk about synergy, about how technological and social changes reinforce each other. As a developer community, we're easily lured into thinking in technological terms and also putting all our money and investment into the technology. But that's just really a very small part of the equation. Ultimately, it's about using that technology to create something, a techno-social system, to help organizations and people do their work better. And that's where the ultimate goal should be. And in the end, it's not about technology, it's about people using that technology. So I want to seek a bit into how organizations work and how the technology plays into that. So organizations have culture, or in other paradigms, organizations are cultures, and this is one definition you can get for a culture. The set of shared, taken for granted, implicit assumptions a group holds and that determines how it perceives, thinks about, and reacts to its various environments. That's quite a mouthful, and the easiest way to summarize that is that an organizational culture is our world. If you are in an organization, there's a specific way of doing stuff, and it's completely implicit and it's taken for granted. That's just the way things are. The key, of course, is that the way things are is different in another organization, but you don't know that if you are cocooned in one. Some typical patterns in organizations. We all know the what I call blue. So this is a Kubrick's. This is a framework I'm using to classify organizations. This is of course abstract, but it's quite recognizable. The typical machine bureaucracy is, created top-down. It has hierarchy. It's focused on efficiency, on control, top-down control. Very good for scaling processes, for efficiency, and for quality control. All of that works really nice in a very predictable environment. But then not all environments are predictable or less predictable. And another paradigm you see is a far more commercial organization, which I call orange here, which is the enterprising organization. So that's an organization which is also still top-down, but it also has lateral connections. Typically, you will see a matrix organization executing this. These are organizations that are geared to exploiting opportunities. So they're much more tuned to their environments than blue organizations. They are less focused on the rules and more on the outcomes. So rules are important, but if you need to bend the rule to achieve a better outcome, in case more profit, please do so. So that's a different way of working. Green organizations you see a lot, for example, in the Netherlands in healthcare. The Plone community has a lot of green aspects. Green organizations are about people, about self-managing teams. So we're now in a complexity level where it's impossible to control everything top-down. You need to delegate to people, you need to delegate to professionals. Knowledge workers who are able to make decisions on their own. And you need to empower these people. And in a green culture, it's a lot about people, it's a lot about trust, it's a lot about emotions. And it's based on consensus, which means it takes an awful long time to reach any decision in a green organization. But once the decision has been reached, because it's consensus-based, everybody's behind it and execution will be swift. And finally, I'd like to talk about the yellow or synergistic type of organization. That's networked organizations. A lot of the people in this room will have a personal value profile which is attuned to this system. We're all into networking. It's important to realize that not all our clients have that value system. So you need to be aware where you're coming from when you're dealing with other people. So in networked organizations, they are typically very much project-based. So it's an ad hoc assembly of a team around a specific goal. You do a project. Very much tuned to creating win-win situations and to pushing innovation. So this is really a very fast-moving, a very fluid way of organizing. Which then raises the question, so which of these is best? We can map this classification on two axes. For example, from control to empowerment, and then from inward-looking to outward-looking. And you get this picture where blue is very much about internal focus control. Orange is still control-based, but it's more attuned to the environment. Green is again an inward-looking, but it's an empowered culture where it's bottom-up. And then yellow is bottom-up and outward-looking. And which is best depends on the environmental challenges. It depends on the complexity pressure of the environment. The more complex an environment gets, the more fluid your organization needs to become, and there's a trade-off there. Because the more fluid you become, the less control you have, and the less efficient you are in a way as well. So that's a trade-off you need to make to see which values can you create. A blue bureaucracy is geared to achieving efficiency. An orange organization is much more attuned to being able to exploit opportunities. For a lot of situations, you need trust beyond just making profit. And if you want to push for innovation, you really need the yellowish, synergistic win-win structure. These paradigms are not just on an axis. They're also it's also an evolutionary paradigm. So the more complex the environment gets, organizations are forced to kind of upgrade to the next pattern of organization, and these patterns encompass each other. So a orange organization, for example, all organizations need the blue core of repeatable quality control processes, and on top of that, the orange organization does opportunities. And on top of that, again, the green organization is about establishing trust. And then the yellow organization needs to build on all these foundations in order to achieve its fluidity. And the major opportunity that we have, and the major shift that we're seeing, and why social intranets and social networking is such a big deal, is because we're in the middle of this big shift from the blue and orange control-based paradigms, which are very much about top-down and about limiting change, to the green and yellowish cultures, which are empowerment-driven. So this is really a very, it's a secular trend. It's a big power shift from top-down control structures to bottom-up people empowerment organizations. And that's necessitated because the environment is changing fast. So old structures are crumbling. Organizations are facing new realities. They need to adapt, they need to adjust. And the only way to do that for many organizations is to make this shift, make this step, and create new ways of working together that make it possible to respond to this shift. That's a lot to take in if you're used to thinking in terms of browser views and dexterity content types. So let me give a few examples to show how this is relevant in your day-to-day work if you're running a Plone company. As an example, you may have a client which does a tender, and I call this the tender from hell because it's checkbox hell. That's immediately recognizable if you get, a 30-page document which has hundreds of features that you need to check whether you comply or don't comply, and it's not really possible to have a meaningful conversation about, so why is this important and who is this serving, and we could do it like this, but all of that's not relevant. Just check the box. That's really, a symptom of a blue organization, which is just following the rules, and beyond that, it stops. If you have an orange client or a predominantly orange client, for Digits had one last year. I think they will recognize this. They are enamored with features. They know what they want, except what they want is in their head, and it changes all the time. And it's also not, it's just a grab bag of features. So they have this idea, and please implement that. They have that idea, please implement that. And it just keeps going on. They just see new opportunities, and then everything you show them creates a new idea, and then go for that, and it's really running for features. So that's very much opportunistic and opportunity-driven, adaptive behavior. Green organizations they're more attuned to people than to technology, which means that in technology terms, they are slow adopters. This is changing now because this whole generation that has held off on using these social technologies now is embracing that in the forms of iPads and social networks. So it's beginning to go, but you need to take care. When you're dealing with a care organization or an other organization which is very much people-focused and based on green and trust, you need to adjust to their pace, and you need to invest more in training, and you need to be aware that these, you need to have simple user interfaces, not the highly complex ones that Orange people are asking for. Make it simple, make it effective, make it easy to understand, offer a lot of training, and help people, use this technology to do what they are really interested in, which is connecting with people. And finally, the risk if you're working with a yellowish client, or a yellowish organization, is that they are full of ideas and pie in the sky visions, but the budget is really it doesn't match up to the aspirations there, and it's a recognizable trap. I like to dream big as well, but still that's something you need to manage if you're dealing with clients. So let's go into the technology then, which is what you're here for, I guess. But I'm framing that as part of the culture framework I just showed you. So in Plone Intranet, it starts with documents. So to recapitulate, a blue machine bureaucracy is very much about top-down control and about repeatable processes, protocols, and people like documents. And like I said, this is the foundation for any of the other cultures as well. So you need to have a solid document management system in place. We have that in Plone Intranet. I think it's one of our main selling features that we combine this with the social features. What you see here is a document with a preview. So all Word documents or other Office documents, they are rendered visually in Plone Intranet. It's in a folder listing which you can manipulate. You can do batch editing like Eric just showed us in Plone 5. We also do this like this here in Plone Intranet. You can expand that batch editor so you have a full content listing. We have a document library, which is a traditional intranet segment where you can either, do a folder-driven or a tag based organization of a reference content section. And this is, traditional internet work, but it needs to be there. And this is still very much the blue paradigm. Also important in blue is, it's top down. So they need to broadcast news. We call that push news. So we designed, but haven't implemented yet, a news magazine that people can publish on their intranets with a editing backend, of course. All of that raises the question, so where's the action? This is all about documents, but nothing really much is happening. And that's the switch to the orange paradigm, which is far more based about processes, about action, about getting things done, than just sticking to the rules and having document structures. I think the key thing we have to offer there in Plone Intranet is the case management we developed. So we have an adaptive case management system in place, it's a workflow, team space. What it enables you to do is to have tasks, to group these tasks into milestones, and to put guards in place that make sure that all tasks for a given phase in a project are completed before you enter the next phase. So this is a way to model processes, and it's not hard-coded, that's the whole key. So you provide a base structure in the form of the workflow, in the form of the phases that need to be sequenced. But beyond that, people participating in a team, people participating in a case are free to add their own to-dos, to reschedule to-dos, to move stuff around. And so it makes it their process. It's not a hard-coded process. It's more like you offer them a skeleton structure and they can build their own processes on top of that. This shows a detailed view of a to-do. So you can assign to-dos, you can initiate to-dos, you can add them to milestones. Cases also have documents, which is of course very important. Typically in a case you are building up a set of documents towards a decision. Cases can have events, and we have a detailed view of that as well. So that's like a fully fledged workspace which is geared to handling a specific project or a specific process. Another thing that is typical for an orange organization is that if you show them a predominantly social stream, they get a bit scared because they're not really into all that social stuff yet. But if you then give them a task-centric dashboard, that's what they will dig, because they're really about KPIs and tasks and getting stuff done. So we have two varieties of the dashboard. One is the task-centric dashboard, which is more geared for orange-dominant organization. But then other people are wondering, where are the people? So that brings us to the green organization, which is far more about the social aspect and about building trust and about building social networks, social structures. For green organizations, they do dig the social dashboard because it provides them with a centralized conversation. It's also decentralized in the sense that we have streams within the workspaces. So we have separate teams which each have their own conversation, and all these conversations get surfaced in the global stream. Within a team, of course, membership management is important, so you can manage members, and there's also an easy, very intuitive security setting to apply across the whole team. You can do batch management of members. You can see member profiles. So that's all very much focused on people and conversations. We are also working on enabling streams, not just globally and on spaces, but also on documents, which will then also show up again in the team spaces and in the global stream. Which then leaves one missing link, which is, where's the actual inspiration for yellowish organizations? So yellowish organizations, they are fluid, they are networked, they are project-based. It's really about knowledge management, about idea generation, about creativity, about innovation. And there you want to have a high-density information environment that you can easily navigate as a professional. So we provide mentions and tags for a very rich stream. We are working on providing a notification system where you can see if you are mentioned, or you can follow certain topics, all the stuff that you're used to be able to do on Twitter. We are exposing that within Plone Intranet. We have a very strong search feature, which is faceted and provides live search on the facets. This is a Solo-based system, so you can search and you can then drill down on document type, you can drill down on tag, you can drill down on modification date. So you can easily narrow down your filter and very fast find what you're searching for. Search also has, apart from the filtering facets, has different display methods, if you will. So we have a generic search overview, but we also have a people-specific search, because expert search is one of the driving things. If you're really pushing for innovation, typically you want to find people, you want to find the experts on a certain topic rather than some document. We have image search in case you want to do a visual search. And we also have a real document search, but then we're leveraging the preview generation I just talked about, so that you don't get just a flat list of, maybe even meaningless titles or weird document names. But you can actually see a visual preview of the document, and that makes it easy to very easily visually scan for a result that you're looking for. Also, we are still expanding the social profiles. Endorsements has been largely implemented, but not yet exposed in the product that we're currently shipping. We have a contact info for people, which is of course the basis of any user profile. We have following information, so people can follow each other and build up a social network, and you can see who's following whom. So that was a whole roadmap of stuff that we've done in the past year. So this is a summary of the feature set I just showed you. Now it's more thematically grouped. So we have a activity stream for knowledge sharing with visual updates. We have team spaces that support document collaboration and secure communication in one place. And I think that's a very strong combination, that you have both documents and the social aspect unified within one trusted environment. So every team is a trust zone. We have user profiles that present a rich representation of people participating in the system, which shows what their activity is in the system, what their social network is in the system, which topics they're interested in. We have the adaptive case management that enables us to quickly model processes for clients and then hand over control to the client to further tune that for specific cases and projects to their own needs, where there's a lot of fluid to-do management going on. And we have the faceted search to really find your way through the information that is built up and navigate through that by explorative live search filters, by searching for experts, user search, or by using the visual profile preview search. So the key thing about this feature set, and the reason that I presented it this way, is that you can de-emphasize or emphasize specific parts of this feature set for specific clients. So not every client is charmed with a fully fledged social stream. And you can do that by emphasizing the features that match a specific client's need and cultural preference. So if they're more bluish, then you emphasize the document management and you downplay the social aspect. If they're more greenish, you de-emphasize the case management, but you really show them the social stream and the social networking features. If they're yellowish, you show them all, because they will love it all. If they're more orange focused, you really emphasize and you will invest a lot of work on the case management and making sure that that really maps their core processes, because that's what it's geared to do, that it maps their processes. So it's a system that is, that covers all of these quadrants, but is able to be tuned towards, to emphasize specific quadrants to correspond with the client. On top of that, we have mobile. The interface we're shipping out of the box is a responsive, mobile optimized design already. It's a mobile first design. On top of that, we're also working on native apps for Android and iPhone. It's an extensible system. We have an app system in place. So some of the core features are very highly integrated and you can't just easily rip them out or add them. Other features are really more like standalone applications, and we have this system in place where you can just start adding new features and integrate them in the system that way. We even envision some kind of app market in the future. In terms of a roadmap, that's a shifting target, because it's largely driven by interest from prospects and clients. Of course, we do have a core roadmap of stuff that we really want to have in place. Something like content updates, for example, is really very much high on my roadmap. Notifications, mobile push. That's all very related. It's all about exposing what's going on in the system through various channels. Be it it can be just a normal stream in a desktop view, but it can also be a push message to a mobile device. We have the News Hub, which has been designed, so it's actually quite easy to build. It just needs to be built. It needs to be funded to be built. So those are really core features on the roadmap. And then more further out, we have calendaring. We already have a prototype in the SysLab, the Intranet SysLab did for a very nice calendar view on events. That is something that we really want to get in there. We have a client asking for auto tagging, which means natural language processing in a way that combined with machine learning, so that when you upload a document, that the system knows what this document is about and is able to automatically tag that with the right tag so that you can find it easy. We have people asking for org charts. So they basically want to be able to map their organization in such a way that they can visually generate a chart of the organization. What's going to be interesting is to combine that with social network analysis. Because, of course, one of the key drivers that you have in this system is that you're capturing a lot of social data, you're capturing a lot of interactions. And you can use that to map the real organization structure as opposed to the official organization structure. So I would be interested in doing org maps in such a way that we can then contrast that with what's actually going on and see how we can help clients improve their operations that way. And finally, like I said, it's open for discussion. The whole roadmap is very much driven by needs that we encounter and opportunities that we see. So that's something that's fluid. Which brings me to my final topic, and actually maybe that's even the most important topic. Because like I said, we're easily lured into technology talk. I think it was also one of the things that was clear to me from the keynote that Eric just gave, is that we're so much focused on the technology that we become invisible. And I've fallen to the same trap. I've been really active on Twitter and social networks in the past, but that has completely dried up in the past half year because I've been just pushing the release of this full-time, and I've been coding full-time. And that's a bad thing because you can have a very nice and slick product, but if nobody knows about it and nobody's going to sell it, there's no cash flow and nothing is going to happen and the product will die. So we need to sell that product and we need to stop focusing all our efforts on product development, and instead we need to find clients and work with clients. Like I said, the key of the story is not technology, it's people. It's people that are working. That's who we're working with. It's people that are discovering ways to connect with each other. So that gives us a promise that we're making. This is a brand promise. We make customers happy with our social internet solutions. So this is not just this is not feature driven. This is emotive. We make customers happy. That's really important, and it's really important to align with the end user and align with the paying client as well, and to make sure that organizations start working better, and that people have fun doing that, or at least they're not offended by the interfaces they're using doing that. It just needs to be fluid, it needs to be easy, it needs to be intuitive, and it needs to have results. So that brings us to a brand promise, which is centered on people. People doing work. It's about smart collaboration. And then the brand we've developed and chosen is Wave. Smart collaboration. So that's going to be the flag under which we are going to market this product and this solution. And we really envision that to be a combination of not just the technology, but also the organizational insights I just showed and the whole consultancy approach. So that's different from the core, the normal business model in this space is to be SaaS driven, which means venture funded, which means it needs to scale like hell. And that's actually quite a constraint on your business model. And we're choosing a different model here where we're much more building on our traditional strengths as consultants, as people who are able to customize systems very intimately to users' needs, to clients' needs. And that's how we're going to market this system. We have a website coming up. It's not finished yet, but it will be launched in parallel with the final release of our product. So I'm showing you a few teasers from the website. And that'll be coming few weeks. And that was my story. Questions? It is.
My question is basically, do you have a model in your architecture in mind, for example, for building your components in a way that at least the generic part would be reusable in clone context, or is it your approach just making design just for your internet application, or is there some overlap where basically take a look what could be reused in Plone itself, and so what's your take on that?
Yeah, so the question is about reuse for this solution, this product. I actually have a whole talk about that topic tomorrow, about the whole technical architecture and how it can and cannot be reused. So I don't want to rebuff you, but it's really a very wide technical topic, and it's a complex situation. So I can't give you an easy answer. So if I could do that, it's not easy to reuse it. It's not a product in the Plone ecosystem that way. So it's a different. So you have Plone the framework and you have Plone the product, Plone the CMS. We are using Plone the framework, but we are creating a different product next to Plone CMS, which is Plone Intranet. Wave. So there's overlap there, and we are reusing components from other. We're reusing other Plone components, and we're also contributing to Plone and to other Plone components. But it's not just an add-on that you can plug in, and you also cannot easily plug in a normal Plone add-on without doing some extra work. It's feasible, of course, but it's not plug and play like you're used to in Barcelona. But I have a full talk about that tomorrow. So please, let's come. More questions? Erik?
My question is, if it's a product, what do you actually sell to the customer?
Yeah, so the question is, if it's a product, what do you sell to the customer? Well, first of all, that's the normal situation that we have with selling Plone CMS already. That's also a product that you sell to a customer, and then you sell, initial analysis, you sell design, you design new features for them, you build that, you train people to use it, you deploy it, you offer support on the deployment, you offer bug fixes, you offer upgrades. Well, that's the whole. So that business model doesn't change that fast.
We don't sell customization, because we're not supposed to customize it, right?
You can extend it. Yeah, I think that's going to be the main game. It's not going to be to customize it in terms of changing existing features. It's rather that building on the core set of features that we already have. There's a lot of untapped client needs that are not fully covered with that feature set. So finding a client and generalizing their need to something that would be a generically useful add-on, and then combining resources from all the partners to actually build that add-on and add it to the generic product. And on top of that, of course, you can do client-specific configuration, but that would be more configuration and code. But then again, that's the topic that will be addressed tomorrow as well.
Would that configuration be that you also can take features out, or is the toolset as is? Like we talked about customizing it or laying emphasis on certain features to different clients.
I see that kind of tweaking to clients not as changing the code base, but really about usage patterns. So I think a lot of that is, if you are not socially sharing, then you don't have a social stream. You don't need to do anything technical for that. You just need to show people, okay, if you don't use that feature and you only want to do content updates, for example, then the system looks differently and behaves differently. So that's kind of built in already without needing to change the technology. Well, one of the main problems in selling these kind of systems and showing them to people is that if you show an empty system, if you have a cold start system, it doesn't do a lot because it's an emergent system. So it has been designed in such a way that if a large, diverse group of people has certain usage patterns playing out on that, then stuff starts to happen. So if in Twitter, who would have thought that exchanging SMS-sized messages would make for something interesting? But on Twitter is much more than the sum of all those 160-byte messages. And the same is true for any such social system. They are emergent systems. The way the social dynamic plays out on a system is different for each organization. And the effects of that will be different as well. And it is our jobs as people who understand these dynamics and who understand the capabilities of the system to show to our client, like, in your situation, you could use this system like this and it would play out like that. So a lot of that has to do with mapping their social structures and creating demo content that makes it credible for them that their business processes and their social processes translated to the system would look like this. And then you can create, and that's the way of tuning it.
I've heard a lot of opinions about using Plone as a document management system. How confident are you that Plone Intranet sort of stands alongside other DMSs?
As a document management system, I think if you have a dedicated document management system, it will have capabilities that we don't have here. So our goal is to provide a good enough document management system that then offers offers a extremely good done integration with the social features. So we see a lot of social systems that don't have the document management capabilities we have. We have document management systems that do not have the social capabilities we have. And we're trying to find a sweet spot there where it's a system which doesn't offer all the bells and whistles, because also that's a UI complication if you do all of that. But just offers good document management, good social interactivity, and a very high level of UX integration, so user experience that is very intuitive across all of these features.
Well enough. It's not going to hit a limit.
It's Plone. Plone is used in huge document management systems. Andreas told me about a system, and Bernard as well yesterday, about a system which has more than 1 million documents in there, and I don't hear any scaling problems there.
Do you have a strategy for integration with other systems like SharePoint, like CMSIS, or other ways to get content when people already have other systems that they want to integrate with?
I'm really interested in the work that Andreas has been doing in exposing Dropbox and other file stores. I think the key aspect to integrating that kind of stuff within our stack is that we want documents to behave as social objects. So it's not good enough to just show a CMS window on a SharePoint repository, for example. That would be too meager. I really want documents to participate in the social stream, to be able to be tagged, to be able to converse on. People should be able to like that. And once that is possible, I think we can do that. But that requires some kind of proxy object that so that we mount the remote system, but then have the extra behaviors, if you will, attached to some kind of proxy object technologically. So that from the user's perspective, it really looks like a file which is participating fully in the social system that we have, but it's also available via their own cloud app or their SharePoint or whatever other system. So it's really about sharing the core document across systems, but then having this extra interaction layer on top of that, which makes it participate in the social system that we have created.
Slightly related to that, do you have ways to migrate from one existing intranet system to Wave, for example? So if people already use the system, they want to migrate to this and they have 1,000 documents, is there a way to do that?
There's two levels to that migration. One is the traditional content migration, which we of course have with Transmogrifier and that kind of stuff, which is migrating the actual content. The other layer, of course, is the social layer. And I'm then assuming that people don't have the rich, social dynamics that we are playing out here. You can't easily migrate that, but they will also not have that available. So then it's more about migrating the actual content, making sure that it's owned by the proper user. And then again, it would be that because we are not document-centric in a way that we want to have everything in one big document tree. So most of the structure in the Plone Intranet is the social structure of teams. So I would if I had a big client, with a big repository coming up, I want to take really care that we don't just replicate their existing information architecture one-on-one into the new system, because that would be a lost opportunity. It would be far more interesting to see, so which groups of people are actually interacting with which documents. So which group of people owns this document, and then restructuring the information architecture in such a way that it becomes much more socially accessible. But it's more than just a technological challenge. It's also about, so how can we change the interaction patterns with these documents? Thank you.